It simply doesn't make sense for your average WoW player to waste their time actually playing the game anymore. It's gotten to the point where it's just common sense to buy gold. It's become common sense to not play the game, because playing the game is now a stupid waste of your precious time. With real money transactions and the various services that you can now purchase with gold, you can now measure the value of your playtime in dollars per hour. And since WoW players typically try to do things in the most efficient way possible, it's only a matter of time before one starts calculating this figure in their head. The value of playing the game has gone down with every passing day as rampant, unmitigated botting injects more and more gold into our already broken economy. It leaves us in a situation where nobody wants to flip burgers in Ogre Law for $2 an hour when they can just RMT and use that time to do literally anything else. But the time that you spend in the game isn't supposed to have a monetary value tied to it. Playing WoW is supposed to be an escape from the real world. It's supposed to be something you do for the enjoyment of it, where the time that you spend playing and mastering the game is what makes your character powerful, not the size of your bank account. There are a few things at play here. Rapid inflation, the removal of the stigma around participating in real money transactions, and the increasing ease and safety of buying gold have inexorably led to money and gameplay becoming intertwined. Everything you do has a dollar price tag from the very moment that you first log on to a fresh character. Why would you waste your time leveling when you can just buy experience boosts and level faster than you could ever possibly hope to on your own? I mean, everyone else is doing it, right? This is a sad fact that becomes exceedingly clear as you walk around the vast, dead, empty realm that supposedly houses 30,000 other players in it. You begin to wonder, why should I even bother putting in the effort leveling this character legitimately if nobody else is? I think a lot of us knows what this feels like. Doing all those quests is time consuming, and we've all done it before. Knowing that there exists an option to fast forward through it all makes doing it by hand feel like a waste of time. Boosting and RMT and botting problems are not new issues and have always existed in the game to some degree, but it's grown completely out of scale. Let me show you. If you want an idea for how bad inflation has gotten, 1,000 gold 1 year ago was worth $53 in what was already considered a broken economy. Today, you can buy the same amount for $7. And this is more or less what you can expect to spend on a piece of tier loot in a GDKP. Think of the amount of work that would normally go into getting a piece of tier on a fresh character. I mean, first you'd have to progress through normals, and then heroics for and then join a Kara guild and get some T4, then move on to T5 and learn the fights. And I mean, all of this can be undermined just by joining a GDKP the same day you hit level 70 and spending $7 worth of gold. The craziest part about gold being this cheap is that all the quests and venerable items are still giving the same amount of gold as they were before. They don't adjust based on inflation. Their value just decreases. So it's not surprising that people feel less motivated to go out and play the game when you know that doing a quest at level 70 will reward you with about 7 cents of gold for your effort. The ends no longer justify the means. Every time a player completes a quest or loots the silver off of a mob or sells an item, they inject new money into the economy, which increases the supply and effectively reduces the value of every other gold piece in the game by some small amount. This is typically mitigated by in-game gold sinks like repair costs or epic flying or those expensive bags in Shattrath, which remove large amounts of gold from circulation and keeps gold scarce and valuable. The problem is that bots have been farming raw gold unabated for years, so the value of the gold that you get from completing a quest in 2022 is worth a fraction of what it used to be in 2008. To give perspective, a woman literally sold her body for epic flying in 2007. The price of gold back then was about $72 for 1,000, which, adjusting for IRL inflation, epic flying would have cost about $500 in today's money through RMT, which is the price of a pretty decent escort. I mean, not a bad deal, good for her, but if the gold economy at the time were the same as it is today, it would have only cost her $30 to just buy the gold instead. And maybe you can start to see the problem here. So not only has gold become cheaper than ever, but real money transactions are now perceived as commonplace and acceptable. And on top of that, gold sellers and buyers have figured out how to avoid getting detected. When the stigma around buying gold is gone, when gold is easier to afford than ever, when it's easy to avoid being caught, and when everyone else is doing it, it's hard to feel good about going out and doing your dailies when you know your hard work is worth only about $2 an hour. And the downstream effects of this have been massive. And that brings me to GDKPs. See, they and of themselves aren't the real issue here. It really doesn't affect me if the top 1% of the server swings their giant golden cocks around at each other. The problem is when it became the way to gear up. Even for a new player who just hit 70, the vast majority of the gold being traded in these GDKPs wasn't acquired through working the auction house or farming. It's been acquired through illicit means. People are going to G2G and buying it, and anyone who pretends otherwise is absolutely delusional. The fresh 70 pure buyer in your raid did not come up with 45,000 gold while they were doing quests in Nagrin. See, the people playing this game generally have a little disposable income. They're likely in their late 20s or early 30s, they're playing on a modern gaming PC with broadband internet, and they can afford a $15 a month subscription fee. Odds are very good they have a few extra dollars laying around to spend on microtransactions. Blizzard knows this, and that's why they put a store in retail. So the general common sense advice to a new player just hitting 70 has become, go buy some gold. The increased demand for all this gold comes from GDKPs. This is a problem that feeds into itself and will only get worse over time, because the demand for gold will only increase as more and more people use GDKPs as their main source of raiding, and that means more botting, more real money transactions, and more inflation. It will only continue to grow because people want their loot and they want it now. And somehow, WoW players think this is okay because the shop they're buying from isn't located directly inside of the game, and the money isn't going directly to Blizzard. Well, it's still going to Blizzard though. All those botters are paying customers too. But imagine if when Blizzard had announced WoW Classic, they also announced it was going to have a WoW token and a pay-to-win shop where you can buy tier sets and warglaives and mounts. How outraged would everyone have been at this idea? And do you realize this is the current state of the game that we're all playing right now? The same people who lambast Lost Ark for being a pay-to-win game are the same people who are spending hundreds or even thousands of dollars on botted gold to throw around in GDKPs. The hypocrisy is astounding. And the absolute worst part of it is that it's eroded away the social fabric of the game that we love. The very thing that drew you into MMOs in the first place was collectively traded for an antisocial convenience. The supply of players looking for a guild to do progression has dried up completely. It's really a tough sell trying to recruit people into a progression guild with scheduled raid times when any time of the day, any day of the week, they can just jump into a GDKP and get whatever gear they want whenever they want it. And most of the better players are trying to gear up in the most efficient way possible, so even if you tried making a guild, you're not really left with much to pick from. It's all a mad race to the top. And for what? To pump, to parse, to do big damage with your ill-gotten RMT gear? So what? So you can clear raids as efficiently as possible? To amass huge piles of gold from carrying noobs? We're all caught up in this pointless rat race, but is it even what we really want to be doing? I don't know about the rest of you, but when I was feeling nostalgia for Classic, when I was thinking about how great it would be to go back and re-experience the magic, I wasn't dreaming about speedrunning and GDKPs. But I digress. So, how do we fix this broken economy? Well, there are a few solutions. The simplest one is just to pay some damn GMs. I mean, Blizzard stands to gain a lot more from the game being in a good state than they would ever lose out on from paying the salary of a few customer service employees. But since that's not gonna happen, well, why not just inflate the gold values in the game, like times 100? I mean, instead of getting 10 gold from a quest, you get 1,000. And like, instead of paying 5k for epic flying, it's now 500k. This would severely decrease the value of the piles of gold that suppliers are hoarding, and it would make going out and farming the best way to make money again. I think this is a little more friendly than a straight up gold reset because you're technically not taking the money away from players, you're just adjusting for inflation. The downside is that people who have a lot of legit gold would be getting shafted pretty hard, but what other options are there? Well, the best thing I can think of is for them to just launch fresh servers. Give people the choice to start over from level 1 in a pristine economy, or let them stay on their dumpster fire real money transaction servers if they want to. At least give us the option. And while you're at it, enable these same anti-botting and anti-boosting measures that you have on Season of Mastery. You'd obviously have to close off transfers from existing servers onto the fresh ones to prevent the piles of dirty money from crashing the new economy. And it would probably be ideal if they turned off boosts on those servers for a while too. Level boosts are how botters are able to farm so efficiently and make so much money despite the ban waves. Most of us would love to see them gone, but we know that'll never happen, so we have to think a little bit more realistically. Well, how about if Blizzard does nothing? Is there really no hope for the game? Will things ever go back to play to win instead of pay to win? Well, I've thought of a final solution, and that's why I'm taking matters into my own hands. If Blizzard does nothing, then I'll be left with no choice but to... just kidding. If Blizzard does nothing, then it's truly up to us to create the game that we want to play. That's why I'm here to announce a very special guild that I'll be leading for Wrath Classic. The goal here is to create a community of players who choose to play the game the way it's meant to be played. So we're not only not participating in GDKPs, but we're also going into the raids completely blind. Yes, no DBM, no guides, completely blind. These raids are filled with awesome, fun puzzles to solve with your friends, but since WoW players tend to optimize the fun out of everything, this aspect of the game has been completely invalidated by the ubiquity of strategy videos and guides available on the internet, so we're just not going to use them. These modern conveniences have robbed the game of one of the most interesting aspects of raiding, working together as a team, devising strategies to overcome difficult challenges. So screw DBM, we're going to forge our own glorious path from Naxxramas to ICC. We're going to recapture that old school community feeling by shunning these conveniences and choosing to do things the hard way. Why would someone want to do this, you might ask? Well, think of it like hunting. Sure, you could go to the grocery store and buy some chicken and ground beef, but does it feel the same as camping out in the woods and tracking down a deer? Of course not. The thrill of the hunt and the opportunity to be immersed in nature with all of its beauty are rewarding experiences in and of themselves. There's a reason why people go hunting for food despite the fact that there's a McDonald's or a Burger King on every street, because the feeling of earning it offers a far deeper sense of appreciation. I'm going to release another video soon with more details about the guild, so if you're someone who wants to experience Wrath the way it was meant to be played, join my Discord and sign up here, and there'll be more details inside. Anyway, that's my rant. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and at the end of the day, I don't blame anyone for the state of the game. It's just human nature, and people will always tend to move toward the path of least resistance. I'm not here to tell you how to play. Do whatever makes you happy, and after all, the reason why the game is in the state that it's in is because a lot of people seem to like it. I just wish Blizzard would step in and do something for those of us who don't. Thanks for watching, and stay safe.